Hello and welcome back to another day in the arena. It's me, it's CGB, and there's a banned and restricted announcement for October 10th, so we're going to push out a video and make the entire dojo aware. What's that doing there? Get that out of there. All right, so I thought that they were just going to ban some Unfinity stuff, but let's read it. Announcement date, October 10th, 2022. The Meathook Massacre is banned in Standard. Whoa. And in Modern, Yorion, Sky Nomad is banned. Now, Modern, not a format we play on MTG Arena, but a place where the Sky Noodle continued to flourish and flap around, and sad to see it go. MTG Arena effective date, October 13th, 2022. Today is the 10th. You know how this works if you've been through this before. If you craft one of these cards before the effective date, and then the effective date occurs, you usually get Mythic wildcards back. We're going to read the whole announcement and make sure that's still the case, but it might mean that you have 3 days to craft Meathook Massacre, then get the wildcard back, meaning that you have free unquote Meathook Massacres to play in Historic Brawl, Historic Explorer, and possibly in Standard if it's ever unbanned. The tabletop effective date is October 10th for those of you owning Meathook Massacres in tabletop. All right. Let's read what they have to say about Standard. As is often the case, the Standard card pool rotation with the release of Dominaria United caused quite a shakeup, with cards from the new set finding their places into decks and many of last year's cards shifting context within the new metagame. As the format has settled into place, the color black has proven powerful and prolific and makes up the foundation of many of the top decks. Despite that commonly shared color, we're seeing good diversity among competitive decks and strategies, and player engagement with the format has been healthy. To provide a small push against the color black's play rate among competitive decks, we're choosing to ban one black card. We discussed several different options, as no single black card stood out as the major power outlier played by all decks containing black. Ultimately, we decided that banning the Meathook Massacre was the best choice, as it's one of the most powerful black cards in the format, is especially powerful against specific archetypes, decks relying on a lot of small creatures, and has had its time to shine in Standard for over a year. With Brothers War on the horizon, we anticipate the new cards entering the format to provide tools for other decks and color combinations. In the meantime, we expect this little shakeup will help keep Standard enjoyable and trending toward an even healthier spot going forward as the card pool expands. Then there is a discussion of Modern, which we're not going to read because it's not an arena format and mine is an arena channel, but you can find the whole announcement at the banned and restricted announcement October 10, 2020. I'm not reading all that either, but you can find it on Daily MTG if you search for Daily MTG. Still, banning Yorion, madness. Pioneer, overall Pioneer, which Explorer being an extension of that follows the ban list, so we're going to pay a little attention. Pioneer looks to be in a good place as we head into the regional championship qualifier season. Plug. We're seeing a wide variety of strategies employed by the most popular decks. The most played deck on Magic Online is Rakdos midrange with a 13% metagame share. None of the top 20 most played decks have a non-mirror match win rate of more than 53%. In other words, everything's kind of flat power level. They just bounce off each other. We'll continue to keep an eye on the health of the format, especially as it undergoes more competitive pressures from the events. Plug. As things currently stand, we don't anticipate any changes, and they seem okay about legacy and vintage and yeah, Standard's the big surprise. They banned the Meathook Massacre. They're aware that black is messed up color compared to the others at this time, and they decided that the Meathook Massacre, this card, had to go. It's kind of misleading how powerful this card is and oppressive, because for the most part, most of the black decks are down to about 2 copies, and you don't see them in every single game. For the most part, even like the Anvil lists, very rare, other than like strictly net deck stuff from a month ago, that the decks online and on ladder play more than 2 copies. So is a 2 of in the deck really the thing that you're supposed to ban here to bring everything in line? And will it actually change the deck? I'm of two minds. For one thing, I don't know that this helps. Like, people are going to say this doesn't help aggro as much as it appears to, and in some aspects they're right, because I tried playing mono red yesterday, and it was just like smashing your head into a wall. Every card that the black decks played was like 2 cards in one, or gained life and had better stats than you, and it felt like there absolutely was no way to bash through. However, I think that we're also losing sight of how many card choices are already sort of, they revolve around the Meat Hook Massacre. Like, I mean, you can't play 1-mana 2/1s. A few people are running Hot Shot mechanic, but they'll tell you what it's like when they draw 2 Hot Shot mechanics and run into a Meat Hook Massacre. That deck, the white aggro deck, basically relies on Anointed Peacekeeper to come down and name Meat Hook Massacre to have a chance. Now they don't have to worry about that as much. In fact, the sweepers in the format in general just went from, well, you can't play that because Meat Hook Massacre exists, to, well, why wouldn't I play 10 2/1s? Like, what's stopping you now? There's no Goblin Chain Whirler, which is sort of how the Meat Hook Massacre functioned for the format. Anything that had lower toughness than power was Meat Hook Massacre bait, and you had to really think about how to scale your threats, or the Massacre would absolutely wipe them. In the previous format, Luminarch Gas Pirate was really good at scaling your threats and keeping them away from the Meat Hook Massacre, and it was something that gave everybody hope. Elite Spellbinder also broke the mold there. It had 1 toughness, but you could bring it down and take the Meat Hook Massacre. In this format, without a Meat Hook Massacre, and without those other cards I mentioned, and now with the pressure off Anointed Peacekeeper to name Meat Hook Massacre, it is quite possible that aggro decks do get a significant boost here, and it's something that we're going to have to test going forward. It's also just not a free roll for every mid-range deck that plays black, which was getting to be all of them, to have a sweeper effect. They have to actually commit to a sweeper. And cards like Depopulate, Farewell, they have very specific weaknesses that the Meat Hook Massacre just didn't have. It was almost never a dead draw because it was kind of a burn spell as well as a sweeper, right? You could just put it out there for 2 mana, and if your opponent cast Invoke Despair, you had something to sacrifice so they didn't draw a card and you didn't lose life. Or if your creatures died, your opponent just died with them. So cutting the Meat Hook Massacre... Cutting the Meat Hook Massacre from the format does provide a new space for aggro decks to play in. Will it be good enough? Are you guys going to try aggro decks again? What do you think this does to the meta, and what decks are you going to try when the Meat Hook Massacre becomes banned on the 13th of October? Now, they didn't mention wildcards, but going off basically history, what they've always done in the past, if you craft a Meat Hook Massacre today, as the day I'm posting this, the 10th of October, or any time before the update launches on the 13th, in theory, when the update comes out, you get the mythics back. So, also, you'll have Meat Hook Massacres. They will be in your collection to play in Historic Brawl and Historic and Explorer. A word of caution, they did not say anything about getting your wildcards back in this specific announcement, which they have in other announcements, which gives me a good amount of trepidation. Perhaps on Twitter they will clarify, so check on Twitter. I am confident they will refund wildcards, but I am not positive. So don't come blaming me. All right. On that note, get ready, guys. The Meat Hook Massacre is leaving. There's 2 or 3 spots in all of your black decks that we can replace, and yeah, we'll send it off into the Alchemy Shadows. Or the Historic Brawl Shadows, where it was already nerfed. All right, that's going to be a quick update video. I hope you find it interesting and informative. Leave me a comment and let me know, what deck should we play now that the Meat Hook Massacre is gone? Will it even impact the format? Will it matter? Oh yeah, that's how I end videos. You're cool.